A young man named Li Shimin walks down an alley, frustrated. He's just been kicked out by his landlord for not being able to pay rent, making him homeless. Li Shimin, a B-list author, checks his empty pockets in despair. His newest book was a failure, and he has no income. He wonders how he'll survive. He looks at the crumpled bills and few coins in his hand, wondering if his only option left is to wash dishes for a living. Letting out a heavy sigh, Li Shimin looks up at the sky, feeling the full weight of his desperate situation. Just as he's about to give up, his eyes land on a sign for a lottery house. A spark of an idea crosses his mind. Figuring he's already at rock bottom, Li Shimin decides to gamble his last few yuan. He walks into the shop and asks the boss for a 5 yuan scratch ticket, leaving it all to fate. The shop owner, a balding man in a tank top named Boss Wong, sits behind the counter smoking a cigarette. He gestures to the tickets and asks which one Li Shimin wants. Li Shimin shrugs, saying any ticket will do since he's just trying his luck. Suddenly, Li Shimin's eyes widen in shock. As he looks at the tickets, something strange begins to happen. To his astonishment, glowing blue percentages appear, hovering over the scratched tickets. Some show 0%, while others show a staggering 100%. Li Shimin stumbles back, covering his face. He can't believe what he's seeing and wonders if he's hallucinating from overworking the previous night. He focuses his gaze and sees a clear 100% success rate floating above one of the tickets that Boss Wong is holding out. Completely bewildered, Li Shimin reaches out a hesitant hand, trying to touch the glowing 100% and questioning what this phenomenon could possibly be. While Li Shimin is lost in thought, wondering if he's the only one seeing this illusion, the shopkeeper, Boss Wong, looks on with growing annoyance. A look of contemplation crosses Li Shimin's face. He stares intently at the tickets, a daring thought entering his mind. Should he trust what he's seeing and give it a try? He takes a ticket and scratches it, revealing a prize of 10 yuan. A glint appears in his eyes as he thinks about the possibilities. What if it's real? Convinced, Li Shimin points decisively at the 2 tickets he saw with a 100% success rate. He tells the boss he wants to buy those 2 specifically. After scratching them and winning 5 yuan and 50 yuan respectively, Li Shimin's theory is confirmed. He realizes with a jolt that the numbers he's seeing must be the success rates of the tickets. Overcome with excitement at his newfound power, Li Shimin slams his hand on the counter and eagerly asks the boss for 11 more tickets. To double-check his theory, he grabs a ticket with a 0% rate. He scratches it to reveal a thanks for playing message. This solidifies his belief that the 10 100% tickets are guaranteed wins. The reality of his new ability hits him with full force. His expression turns intense as he exclaims in disbelief. I can actually see the success rates. Seeing the young man's frantic energy, Boss Wong pats him on the shoulder, offering some fatherly advice that gambling is never a good thing and he should learn self-control. Ignoring the advice, Li Shimin, now filled with confidence, slaps his remaining money on the counter and demands 10 20 yuan tickets and 1 10 yuan ticket. Boss Wong looks at him skeptically, a greedy smile playing on his lips as he warns Li Shimin not to waste his last 200 yuan so recklessly. Despite his warning, he happily takes the money, thinking he's just fleeced a naive kid. However, just 10 minutes later, the tables have turned completely. Li Shimin shows a notification of 20,420 yuan received in his account, while Boss Wong stares at his own phone, utterly stunned and speechless at this incredible streak of luck. With a newfound fortune in hand, Li Shimin leaves the shop, ready to explore his new ability. As he walks away from the lottery shop, Li Shimin analyzes his newfound power. He understands that the numbers represent the success rate of the lottery, but the exact amount to be won remains a mystery. A sharp look crosses his face as he thinks to himself that his ability would be even better if he could also see the prize money for each ticket. He muses out loud about seeing the specific chance of winning 100 yuan, which earns him a puff of smoke and an annoyed look from Boss Wong. Boss Wong scoffs, telling him to dream on because no one is that lucky. But his words trigger a sudden realization for Li Shimin. Now with a new idea, he turns back to the counter and points, asking the boss for more of the always-winning scratch tickets. As he looks at a new batch of tickets, he's startled to see the percentages have changed. Now they show values like 150%, 200%, and even lower ones like 10% and 20%. Boss Wong advises him to stop while he's ahead, warning him that luck is a fickle thing. But Li Shimin just clutches the tickets with a greedy, confident smile. Li Shimin puts on a bright, innocent smile, telling the boss that it's okay because he feels lucky. He cheerfully adds that if he doesn't win, it can just be a donation to charity. Boss Wong gets irritated, thinking Li Shimin has gotten arrogant after winning 20,000 yuan. He grumbles, deciding to just wait and see when the kid's luck finally runs out. Li Shimin focuses on a ticket that shows a 10% success rate, ready to test his evolving ability. With a smug grin, he remarks that it seems luck is still on his side, much to the growing fury of Boss Wong in the background. As Li Shimin continues to win, scratching a 20% ticket and getting another prize, Boss Wong starts to have a breakdown. 6 wins in a row. His heart pounds in his chest as he watches in disbelief. Li Shimin calmly points to his latest winning ticket, casually saying it seems he's lucky today with another win, further agitating the stunned shopkeeper. The unbelievable streak continues. He reveals that the 100% tickets win 100 yuan, and the 200% ticket wins 200 yuan. Boss Wong can only watch, completely flabbergasted and sweating. Li Shimin has another breakthrough. He wonders if he can see the chances of winning a specific amount, like 50 yuan. As he focuses on this thought, the percentages floating over the tickets instantly change to reflect his new query. He's figured it out. With a triumphant, cunning expression, Li Shimin realizes the probabilities displayed are based on the specific questions he asks in his mind. A wicked smile spreads across his face as he understands the true potential of his power. If he can reframe his questions correctly, he can completely fool the shop owner and change his destiny. Putting on an act, Li Shimin faces the shopkeeper with a humble expression, simply stating that it seems to be his lucky day. Boss Wong, sweating and exasperated, retorts, "You think your luck will last forever? Your life is like a piece of jade." Li Shimin internally scoffs at the insult, which is slang for having a bad or unlucky life. He thinks to himself that he possesses a powerful artifact. Outwardly, he just laughs it off and cheerfully asks for 20 more tickets. Boss Wong gives him another stern warning, telling him that this is just a lucky streak and he shouldn't let it make him addicted to gambling. Li Shimin waves off the concern with a confident smile. He reminds the boss that he already won 20,000 yuan and questions who could predict if he'll win the next 20 lotteries. With a coin in hand, Li Shimin leans over the counter to scratch another ticket, while the shopkeeper flinches back in shock and apprehension. As Li Shimin's coin moves across the ticket, Boss Wong watches with nervous sweat dripping down his face. His eyes are wide, filled with a mixture of hope and dread, anticipating whether this will finally be the moment the kid's impossible luck runs out. The coin methodically scratches away the final bits of the silver coating. The panel closes in on Boss Wong's eyes, which are wide and fixated with suspense, bracing for the result that will be revealed in the next instant. The ticket is scratched, revealing the word nothing. For the first time, Li Shimin has lost. Seeing the losing ticket, Boss Wong lets out a huge sigh of relief, clutching his chest as if a great weight has been lifted. With a smug smile, Boss Wong lectures the kid, telling him that luck comes and goes and can never be relied on. Li Shimin replies with a sly, knowing smile, thinking to himself, luck can't be relied on, but, haha. To sell his act, Li Shimin begins frantically buying and scratching tickets, all of which turn out to be losers, scattering them across the counter. He puts on a show of frustration, clenching his fists and staring angrily at yet another losing ticket. Boss Wong gloats, patting him on the shoulder. "Aish, I already told you. I think you used up all your luck before, and now you've got none left." With a cold, determined look in his eyes, Li Shimin stares down at the pile of losing tickets. His act is complete. He activates his ability, scanning all the tickets on the counter and the discarded ones on the floor. All of them show 0%, except for one single ticket displaying a massive 30,000% success rate. A confident smile spreads across his face. He thinks to himself, "You didn't know that I relied on power, not luck," as he holds the tickets with the ultimate prize. He reveals his strategy. He had intentionally bought tickets with only a 1% chance of winning. Now, he points to the grand prize tickets and tells the boss he wants 20 of them. With a sly look, he confirms his brilliant plan in his mind. He intentionally lost just to ensure the shopkeeper wouldn't get suspicious. Feeling sorry for him, Boss Wong offers to give him back 100 yuan, stating that his luck has dwindled to just 1 out of 10. Putting on a final burst of fake defiance, Li Shimin loudly rejects the offer. "No, shopkeeper, thank you for your kindness. But I don't believe it." He grins, thinking to himself that now, with the shopkeeper completely fooled, it's time to turn things around. Sighing and blowing a smoke ring, the shopkeeper gives up trying to reason with him, muttering, "Haze, just forget it." Suddenly, Li Shimin shouts, "Hey shopkeeper, my luck came back." He holds up a winning ticket for 10 yuan. Boss Wong is initially shocked, then calms down, thinking it was only 10 yuan and not 10,000. Li Shimin excitedly shoves another winning ticket in the owner's face, yelling, "I won again," and startling the poor man. He continues to win, over and over, but complains loudly that they're all small prizes like 10 yuan, with the highest being only 100. Boss Wong watches, utterly bewildered by the strange turn of events. As the pile of small winning tickets grows, Boss Wong nervously taps out his cigarette. He stares at the boy with growing dread and wonders, is this kid a devil? For his final act, Li Shimin clasps his hands in a dramatic prayer. "Spirits of sky and earth, help me. Let's hope I'll win a big prize." Boss Wong sneers, taunting him one last time. "Do you know the chance to get millions of yuan? Your luck is still lacking." With a triumphant grin, Li Shimin holds up the grand prize ticket, exclaiming, "Shopkeeper, I got 15,000 yuan. My luck is really bad." The taunting grin on Boss Wong's face instantly vanishes, replaced by utter shock. His eyes widen in disbelief as he screams. What? Li Shimin coolly holds up his phone, showing the Alipay notification for 15,000 yuan received. He turns to the completely frozen shopkeeper and asks with a triumphant smirk. By the way, boss, what did you just say my luck was? Boss Wong is left speechless and in denial, muttering, nothing. No way. As his trembling hands struggle to light his cigarette. Peeking from behind his counter, he tries to rationalize the situation. He figures that since the odds are set at the factory, and the kid won so many times, the remaining tickets must be losers. Worried about his own business now that all the big prizes might be gone, he tries to coax Li Shimin. Kid, you're so lucky today. Why did you stop? Li Shimin glances back at the racks, using his ability one last time. He asks himself what the winning chances are for the remaining lotteries and sees a wall of 0% staring back at him. He politely declines to buy more, saying he thinks it's time to stop and that his luck will probably go down. Internally, he notes that the overall chance of winning in the store has dropped from 30% to just 5%. The boss makes one last greedy attempt, reminding him, Kid, you already got 35,000 and up. Why don't you try again? Switching tactics, Li Shimin puts on a virtuous face and preaches about being diligent and thrifty, which only makes Boss Wong grit his teeth in frustration. With a final wave, Li Shimin says he's satisfied with his winnings and thanks the boss for his kindness before leaving. As he walks away, leaving the stunned shopkeeper behind, he thinks about the good profit he made and begins to wonder if his power can be used for things other than just the lottery. Approaching the automatic glass door of the shop, he playfully tests his ability, wondering what the chances are of opening it. As his hand gets close to the sensor, a glowing 100% appears, confirming his suspicion. A spark of excitement shines in his eyes. He smiles as he realizes the possibilities are endless. There are success rates for everything. Suddenly, his vision is flooded with glowing percentages, showing the probability of various outcomes happening around him. Confused and alarmed, he shouts, What? What's this? A 10% chance of danger appears directly in his path. Acting on pure instinct driven by his ability, he leaps backward just in time, narrowly avoiding disaster as Boss Wong watches in confusion. A moment later, a large husky crashes right through the glass door, shattering it into pieces. The 0% chance was for him to remain unharmed if he stood still. Li Shimin exhales in relief, having avoided the reckless dog. He mutters about how annoying the dog was and how he almost got hit, while the husky sits among the glass, dazed. Thinking he should get out of there quickly, Li Shimin turns to leave, but the startled Boss Wong has other ideas. A shocking realization dawns on Boss Wong. Wait, how did he know he had to avoid it? His mind leaps to an incredible conclusion. Is he a god? In a state of shock and awe, Boss Wong lunges forward and grabs Li Shimin's arm, shouting, You! Don't leave! Caught off guard, Li Shimin gets nervous, a drop of sweat rolling down his face. Shit, he thinks. Is he suspicious? The shopkeeper, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and reverence, stammers. Young man, how did you know? Li Shimin realizes his preternatural dodge was too strange to be ignored. He thinks to himself that he needs a plausible explanation for his actions. Thinking fast, he decides to use his power to find the best excuse. With a determined look, he asks himself, I'm a fortune teller myself. What are the success rates in fooling the shop owner? A 50% success rate appears above Boss Wong's skeptical face. Li Shimin knows that's too risky. He needs a more convincing story. He refines the lie, adding more detail. What about a fortune teller who has been in my ancestral lineage? He asks his power. But the chance of success remains at a shaky 50%, leaving him to figure out the perfect words to escape the situation. The success rate of fooling the old man is only 64%. He is still skeptical. Li Shimin, with a confident smile, introduces himself. Boss, actually, I'm a fortune teller. He boasts, Don't compare us to crooks under the bridge. We're from the Zhou dynasty. We've been around for 2,000 to 3,000 years. The shop owner scoffs, taking a drag from his cigarette. Bullshit. Young man, I'm a firm believer in science. I don't believe in ghosts. He continues his tirade. Besides, if your family's been around for 2,000 to 3,000 years, it should be famous. Why have I never heard of it? The success rate of convincing him drops. Li Shimin retorts, getting agitated. Above your head, that frame, it's metaphysics, not science. He tries to explain. It's been in my family since ancient times. They never took part in the change of dynasties, so their reputation wasn't high. The shop owner looks astonished. Li Shimin's explanation seems to be working, as the success rate starts to increase. Game on, he thinks. Li Shimin presses his advantage. Shop owner, you've already seen my fortune-telling skills, he says, gesturing to the discarded winning lottery tickets. The success rate jumps to 80%. The shop owner is in disbelief. What? Don't tell me? With a knowing smile, Li Shimin confirms the owner's unspoken thoughts. That's right. Li Shimin explains. I've just figured out my fortune, and I've won the lottery, so I decided to stop because the heavens have turned against me. The 10 that didn't win were an omen. The success rate climbs to 90%. I see. No wonder you have such luck. Winning 20,000 on scratch lotteries like that. Suddenly, Li Shimin appears back at the shop by a shattered window. I had a bad feeling when I walked out of here, so I did a quick fortune-telling and found out I could be killed. That's why I ran back. Completely convinced, the shop owner grabs Li Shimin's hands. Young man, no master. How much for your services? I need you to divine something. Li Shimin is initially taken aback, but then a sly grin spreads across his face. This is a good chance to test my skills, he thinks. Li Shimin explains. No need for payment. Our skills are highly tied to karma and retribution, so my streak just now will affect your business in the future. There is a price for everything. Tell me, boss, what do you want me to divine? The shop owner eagerly asks. I would like you to see my financial future. My old home is getting demolished soon, but we haven't discussed compensations. Can you tell me, what is the maximum amount they will agree to? Li Shimin coolly asks. What is an ideal price for you? The owner replies. It's a 200 to 300 square meter house. 1 square meter would be around 10,000. Li Shimin closes his eyes to focus and says, I got it. He begins his calculation. What are the odds that they would pay 2 million as compensation for the shopkeeper? The success rate is 100%. Then, what are the odds that they would pay 3 million? The success rate for 3 million is also 100%. Li Shimin pushes further. What about 4 million? He pushes the limit even further, wondering. Ay Dios mío, what about 5 million? After testing the upper bounds, Li Shimin thoughtfully considers the optimal number. 4.5 million? The shopkeeper stares blankly, speechless at the numbers Li Shimin has been testing. A close-up on Li Shimin's eyes reveals his intense concentration and confidence. The shopkeeper snaps out of his daze, eagerly asking, Master, have you got it? Li Shimin lays out the odds with a smirk. Shopkeeper, if you asked for 4.3 million, they won't hesitate. For 4.5 million, there is an 80% chance. For 4.8 million, there will only be a 50% chance. The owner is flabbergasted by the amount. 4 million. So much. Master, are your calculations correct? Li Shimin shines with confidence. If you don't believe me, you can call them right now and try. He thinks to himself that this is the perfect time to test his new Midas touch. Nervously, the shopkeeper agrees. Yes, I'm dialing right now. While Li Shimin watches with a calm, knowing look. 1 minute later, the shopkeeper looks at his phone in utter disbelief. They actually agreed. Unbelievable. Overjoyed and completely convinced, the owner grabs Li Shimin's hands, exclaiming, Master, you are a true master of divination. Feeling a debt of gratitude, the owner says, Karma and retribution, this is one hell of a karma you gave me, master. What about this? Let me give you 300,000 as compensation. Li Shimin tries to play it cool, saying, well, you see. But inside he's screaming, 300,000. Jackpot. A bank notification confirms the deposit of 300,000 yuan. Li Shimin feigns modesty. Oh my, you shouldn't have. As he accepts the money. Internally, he's ecstatic. 300,000 just like that. Awesome. I just cracked the code of life with this. The grateful shopkeeper waves his hands. No problem, no problem. As Li Shimin leaves, the owner respectfully sees him off. Goodbye, master. Walking away, a sinister grin spreads on Li Shimin's face. This is too good. As long as I use this gold mine properly, I can definitely climb up to the top of the world. As he walks down an alley, Li Shimin stumbles upon a husky rolling playfully on the ground near the shop with a broken window. He mutters in annoyance. What is this stupid dog still doing here? Looks like a purebred. Has someone lost it? A 100% success rate appears above the goofy dog as it rolls around with its ball. Feeling generous after his big win, Li Shimin speaks to the dog. Since you helped me earn big back then, why don't I help you find your master? The husky happily bites its green tennis ball. With a flick of its head, it throws the ball high up into the sky. The ball ricochets off a power line and comes flying back down, right towards an unsuspecting Li Shimin. The husky watches with a goofy, proud expression. The ball ricochets and smacks him right in the forehead with a loud plap. Fuck. That hurt. He yells in surprise and pain. Clutching his throbbing head, Li Shimin stares at the blissfully unaware husky. Urgh. He groans. What sort of torment does its owner go through every day? Despite his frustration, he knows he still has to find the dog's owner. Frustrated after getting hit, Li Shimin kicks a stray can. This is stupid, but I still got to find its master. But where? He wonders as the husky nuzzles his leg. Suddenly, the husky bolts, barking wildly and creating chaos as it runs down the street, startling pedestrians. Li Shimin realizes the dog seems to be running somewhere specific. Is he looking for his master? Let me follow him. 3 minutes later, the chase leads them to Central Park, where the husky runs toward a beautiful girl with purple hair sitting on a bench, absorbed in her phone. This is Di Qingqing. A close-up shows Di Qingqing's pretty face, a smug and self-satisfied smile playing on her lips. Li Shimin is instantly love-struck, blushing as he thinks. This babe, damn, she's at least a 9. He immediately uses his ability, wondering, what are the odds of this babe being the dog's owner? The success rate flashes at 100%. Damn, its owner is actually such a pretty babe. I'm in luck, he thinks. He can't believe his good fortune. I only wanted to make some money from looking for its owner while testing out my skill. I didn't expect to get the chance to talk to such a beauty. Suddenly, Di Qingqing strikes a pose and snaps a selfie, making a peace sign. The action startles Li Shimin. Li Shimin is completely bewildered. She's too chill. She's even in the mood to take selfies after losing her dog. A glamour shot highlights Di Qingqing's charming and playful personality. She finally looks up and sees the husky by Li Shimin. You own a husky too? It looks just like my dog Oreo, she says with surprising innocence. Li Shimin is dumbfounded by her obliviousness. Duh, it's yours. I don't think you're the sharpest tool in the shed, he thinks, as the dog barks happily. Di Qingqing continues her clueless comparison. Even the barking sounds the same, but my Oreo is slightly cuter, and your husky looks a little dumb. My Oreo is much smarter. Our Oreo eats 500 tons of dog food. Its fur is in much better condition than your dog's too. All the while, Li Shimin can only cough in disbelief. Coughing, Li Shimin comes to a conclusion in his head. This girl was actually born dumb. Still petting the dog, she finally turns her attention to him, asking, Yes? Tired of the conversation, Li Shimin points and says, If I'm not wrong, this is your Oreo. She laughs it off, replying, Haha, what a bad joke. My Oreo is securely leashed on the bench. Her voice trails off as they both turn to look at the bench, where only a broken, empty leash is tied. Their faces fill with shock as reality sinks in. Li Shimin holds up the other half of the chewed-through leash, proving the dog's escape. 5 minutes later, a deeply embarrassed and blushing Di Qingqing apologizes profusely. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much, she says, after adding Li Shimin as a new friend on her phone. Li Shimin smiles and brushes it off. No problem. It's good that you found your dog. A close-up on his eyes shows him comically lamenting his romantic status with the words, forever alone. But as he checks his phone, his initial lamenting is replaced by excitement as he sees he successfully added her. He scrolls through her profile, looking at a selfie she just posted, and thinks, FCK. It's my first time friending a beauty. I really made the right decision to come. His happy scrolling continues until he lands on a photo album titled Oreos Daily. The images show a montage of the husky chaotically destroying pillows, toilet paper, and bras. The scene confirms his earlier suspicions and provides a glimpse into the daily chaos of owning Oreo. Li Shimin stares at the pictures of the destroyed room, a vein throbbing on his forehead in silent frustration. He tells a blushing Di Qingqing, Your husky is way too wild. It's like he's tearing down the entire house. I would have already been chased out by the landlord. He sighs, admitting his own predicament. But I'm in no position to criticize you. My rented room's lock was replaced today. Now I have nowhere to go. Di Qingqing casually replies, Why do you even rent a house? Isn't it better to have your own? I'm going off. She waves goodbye and walks away with her husky. Her words spark an idea. Right. Now that I have this probability skill, why do I still think about paying rent? It's easy to buy a house once you're rich. Now motivated, Li Shimin walks down the street pondering. How do I become rich and buy a house? I don't have enough. I need to think of a quick way to make money. A quick way to make money. Lottery? Stocks, he thinks, just as his eyes land on a sign for an antique market. His face lights up with a brilliant, slightly greedy smile as he gets an idea. Antique collections, he exclaims, as the scene opens to an ancient-looking market street, bustling with people. As he walks through the market, vendors are shouting out their deals. One claims to have a newly collected Tang Sankai pottery that will bring instant profit. He's bombarded by offers from all sides, with vendors hawking everything from Han Dynasty jade to Northern Songs porcelain, all trying to get his attention. The other shopkeepers watch him, snickering to themselves. This fella is definitely a novice. Look at his presentation, he looks brainless and lost. Feeling overwhelmed, Li Shimin squats down. These jerks definitely take me as a novice that can be easily conned. All these scammers. Another vendor sidles up to him. Hey kid, these are antiques inherited from my ancestors. My surname's Li, and apparently an ancestor of mine is the poet Li Shimin. Li Shimin plays along, smiling innocently. Boss, you don't have to bother me. I'm just looking around. But inside, a cunning grin forms. Hee. But no one can imagine that this novice here has golden fingers. I definitely won't be easily conned. He activates his ability on the vendor's stall, and to his surprise, the odds of getting a real deal successfully show as 100%. He becomes suspicious as the vendor smirks. Does that mean these are real? It can't be. Something doesn't feel right. No, he realizes. My understanding of antique collection must be wrong. They might be authentic, but who knows what era they are from. They might not be valuable at all. He cleverly decides to refine his power. I need to limit the success rate. What are the odds of getting something valued at 10K and above? The result is a disappointing 0%. He tries again, lowering the threshold. How about getting something valued at 5K? Still 0%. His ability now displays multiple filters. He sees a bracelet from the Ming period is 100% authentic, but the chance of it being worth 300 has only a 5% success rate. He points and asks, "Boss, how much is this?" The vendor's eyes light up. "Young lad, you have sharp eyes. This item is my most valuable antique. Even Tsishi played with it. Since we have a bond, 20K. Li Shimin is struck with disgust and disbelief as the vendor's price of 20,000 flashes in his mind, contrasted with the item's low real value. He stands up and walks away. What trash? Its value isn't even guaranteed to be 200, and he still wants to con me. The scammer desperately calls after him. "Hey little bro, don't go. Let me give you a discount. How about 10K? Li Shimin doesn't even look back, swiftly walking away and leaving the shouting, flustered vendor behind. In a street notorious for its scammers, a young man named Li Shimin navigates cautiously. He's determined not to get cheated, deciding to only consider items with a value of at least 10,000. Li Shimin approaches a stall run by a portly man with a fan, wondering what the odds are of finding something worth 10,000 here. A holographic display, visible only to him, shows a 10% chance. Curious, he mentally raises the stakes, checking the probability for an item worth more than 20,000. Still 10%. He pushes his luck further, querying the chance for something valued above 30,000. The chances for items valued at 20,000 and 30,000 remain a steady 10%. He tests one last time for an item worth 50,000, and the probability is still 10%. A manic grin spreads across his face as he realizes he's stumbled upon a hidden gem. The stall owner, a man named Old Wong, watches him, feeling a bit nervous. Old Wong's nervousness quickly turns into a smug grin. He thinks Li Shimin is just a novice, an easy target for a scam. He begins his sales pitch, claiming to be a decent businessman, unlike the other con artists who scam people with high prices. As Old Wong presents a fan, Li Shimin's ability shows a big fat 0%, confirming the item is worthless. Without hesitation, Li Shimin slaps the man's hand away, rejecting the worthless item. His eyes land on a dusty green bronze goblet. The system interface lights up. Value 500K, success rate 100%. With a confident smirk, he points and declares, "I want this." Li Shimin smirks confidently. He's no ordinary novice. With his unique probability skill, he can easily pick out valuable antiques and is destined to become a first-tier collector. This, he thinks, is the beginning of his legend. Old Wong, however, is completely baffled. He scoffs internally, thinking the kid is too naive. He knows for a fact that 9 out of 10 of his bronzes are fakes, fresh out of the oven. He can't believe someone would want such trash. A sly grin plays on Li Shimin's lips. He realizes the old man is trying to seize the opportunity to raise the price on the wrong items. He quickly slaps his own face, chiding himself for letting his eager expression show. He's become too confident since getting his ability and needs to play it cool. Old Wong, seeing his chance, tries to redirect the conversation. "Sigh, little buddy, you're really greedy. But let me tell you something first. Take a look at this porcelain vase." The owner continues his pitch. "Collecting antiques requires affinity and good eyes. I see you have great affinity, so I'll give you my honest opinion. Look at this vase, it's very well polished and bright." He gestures to the bottom of the vase, adding, "And look at the round finish at the base, it's pure handicraft." He taps the side of the vase with his finger. "And listen to this sound, it's clear." Old Wong names his price with a flourish. "It's not expensive, just 50,000. He leans in, promising, "Once you resell it, you'll most likely make a fortune out of it." Li Shimin grows irritated. He can't believe this fatty is still trying to sell him a trashy vase instead of discussing the price of the goblet he actually wants. Then, a thought strikes him with the force of lightning. The only explanation is that the boss himself doesn't know he owns an item worth at least 500,000. This changes everything. Armed with this new realization, Li Shimin calmly clears his throat. "Ahem, boss," he begins. "I agree that collecting antiques requires affinity. While this porcelain vase is decent, I just have no affinity with it." His polite refusal leaves Old Wong speechless and sets the stage for his real move. Li Shimin casually picks up the bronze goblet. "But," he says, interrupting the seller's train of thought, "I think this goblet looks pretty good." Old Wong looks on, stunned. A smile spreads across Old Wong's face, seeing an opportunity. "Little buddy, you're interested in this bronze goblet?" he asks eagerly. His smug expression returns as he compliments Li Shimin. "You have great eyes." Old Wong begins to spin a new tale. "This is a treasure I dug out from my hometown, 8K. If you really want it, I'll sell it to you at its original price." He confidently states his price. No more and no less. "How's it?" Li Shimin can't help but grin, knowing the goblet in his hand is worth 500K, not the 8K the seller is asking for. He thinks to himself that 8K is just peanuts compared to 500K. This confirms that the seller doesn't know the true value. Just to be sure, he decides to check the likelihood of him knowing. The probability is a clear 0%. As I expected, Li Shimin thinks with a smirk. With his probability skills, the seller's attempts at hiding his thoughts are futile. Now Li Shimin schemes on how to slash the price. He plans to pretend to be a poor novice, confident that as long as he knows the seller's baseline, he'll win the negotiation. First, he decides to use his probability skills to find out the seller's absolute bottom line. He asks his ability, "What is the probability of buying this goblet at 4K? The result is 100%. Li Shimin is shocked. What the fuck, 100% for 4K? How about 2K, he wonders. He's stunned to see a 100% probability for both 4K and 2K. He pushes his luck one last time, checking the odds for 1K, which drops to 80%. Li Shimin decides not to push his luck too far. Forget it, I shouldn't be too greedy. 2K it shall be, he resolves. He starts the negotiation, feigning disappointment. Boss, 8K is a little too high. Are you able to lower the price? Old Wong scoffs. Ayaya, such a good item. 8K really isn't expensive. He internally justifies his price, thinking that even though he got the items for cheap, it was still his blood, sweat, and tears. Switching tactics, Old Wong smiles generously. Since you seem to have such a good affinity, name a price. Li Shimin holds up 2 fingers and declares, 2K. Old Wong is completely taken aback by the lowball offer. The boss is annoyed, thinking that this brat is ruthless with his haggling. However, he also knows that the fake goblet is hard to sell, even for 2K. Li Shimin presses his advantage. How is it? If you don't want to sell it, then forget it. The boss remains silent, weighing his options. Old Wong finally caves. 2K it shall be then. He tries to save face by adding, "Actually, I spent 8K on 2 items. The other was sold to a beautiful lady yesterday." With a triumphant grin, Li Shimin accepts the boxed goblet from the defeated seller. His phone buzzes, confirming the successful transaction of 2,000. Li Shimin confidently walks away, leaving Old Wong amidst his collection of fakes. As he walks away, a triumphant grin spreads across Li Shimin's face. I made a fortune, he thinks to himself, clutching the real treasure. Meanwhile, back at the stall, Old Wong has the exact same thought. A smug, greedy smile appears on his face as he thinks, I made a fortune, completely unaware that he was the one who was truly scammed. Old Wong is ecstatic, gloating to himself. He believes he just sold an item bought for a few bucks for 8K, easily passing off trash at the price of an antique. He sneers with contempt, thinking, a mere novice trying to collect antiques. Watching Li Shimin walk away, he thinks to himself, this dummy, 2K is such a great deal. He boasts to the neighboring stall owner. Yesterday, there was a lady who spent 9K on a wine pot, and today, another brat spent 2K on a goblet. The seller is still wittier than the buyer. Money just rolls in easily. His neighbor looks at him with disdain, replying, what's there to flaunt? The neighbor then points to an approaching woman. Aya, Old Wong, isn't that the lady whom you scammed 9K out of yesterday? Old Wong looks over, startled. His neighbor continues to needle him. She isn't possibly here to find trouble from you, right? Old Wong brushes it off, saying, that's none of my business. The money and the goods are separate issues. But as the woman Jingqing stands before him, he gets nervous and blurts out, my shop's a small business. There's no refund once an item is sold. Jingqing isn't listening. She scans the stall with a worried expression and asks, it's gone? How come it's gone? Old Wong, completely oblivious, holds up a small container and asks, what's gone? Jingqing's expression turns serious. Where's the bronze goblet? She demands. I'll spend 10K, no, 50K to buy that goblet. Old Wong is absolutely floored, stammering. How much? The number 50K rings in his ears as he looks toward the direction where Li Shimin disappeared. He begins to sweat, the horrifying realization dawning on him. Is that goblet really that valuable? How did that novice know? Jingqing, misinterpreting his stunned silence, grows impatient. Why is this fatty stalling? Is he trying to raise the price? She wonders. She leans in, her voice firm. If that's not enough, I can go higher. The price rapidly escalates as she shouts. What about 60,000? No. 70,000? 80,000. The neighboring stall owner is completely speechless, his mouth agape at the absurdly high offers. Each new offer feels like a punch to Old Wong's gut as he calculates the fortune he just lost. Furious at his silence, Jingqing yells, hey shopkeeper, are you deaf or something? The pressure is too much. Old Wong finally breaks down, clutching his chest in agony. Oh lord, the scammer is now scammed. My 800,000 yuan. His neighbor bursts into laughter. Haha, Old Wong, this is the first time I am awed by a sales transaction. 80,000 yuan for a heap of trash you got for 300. In a desperate, last-ditch effort, Old Wong grinds out an offer. How? How about 100,000? To his shock, Jingqing immediately agrees. Deal. 100,000 it is. The finality of the deal, and the magnitude of his loss, is too much for Old Wong to bear. He collapses on the spot. The neighbor, ever the opportunist, immediately turns to Jingqing. Hey missy, let me tell you, Old Wong here has sold the goblet. Guess how much for? He asks with a greedy smile. The neighbor shouts the price for all to hear. 2,000. He sold tens of yuan in old trash for 2,000. Jingqing is furious. What? It's been sold, she seethes, while old Wang remains passed out on the ground. The thought of all that money miraculously revives old Wang. He scrambles to his feet, shouting, "Hold on, Missy, I will get it back." Suddenly, a calm but firm voice cuts through the chaos. An old, scholarly-looking man, Jingqing's grandfather, offers a staggering 300,000? The massive sum leaves both Jingqing and old Wang completely stunned and speechless. The crowd erupts in whispers. This kid is way too lucky. Old Manly is offering 300,000 for a bronze goblet, they gossip. The neighbor twists the knife in old Wang's wound. "Oh my, old Wang, could the bronze goblet they are talking about be the one you had?" he asks with faux innocence. Jingqing fumes, thoroughly annoyed. What a bother. This kid will suffer for getting in my way, she thinks. Meanwhile, the esteemed collector, old Li, has found Li Shimin. With a calm demeanor, Li Shimin inspects the goblet and states simply, "I'm not selling." Old Li looks at the young man, silent and contemplative. The crowd is shocked by his refusal, accusing him of daylight robbery. Unfazed, Old Li raises the bid. What about 350,000? The ever-increasing price is too much for old Wang to handle. He spits a mouthful of blood as the agony of his monumental loss becomes physical. Old Li makes his final offer with a smile. "For 100,000, I won't go any higher." Li Shimin matches his smile, still looking confident. With a theatrical sigh, Li Shimin places the goblet back in its box, pretending to end the negotiation. Old Li stops him, amused. "Don't be a hasty young man," he says, taking the box. "Name your price." Li Shimin looks the old man in the eye. "You're an expert, old master, and I would like to be your friend," he says, shifting the dynamic. With a charming smile, he names his price. "So what about 500,000? His ability confirms it's a done deal, showing a 100% success rate. Impressed, Old Li agrees. "Kid's sure or something. All right, I'll be your friend." The sound of 5 to 500,000 echoes in old Wang's head, the final nail in his coffin of regret. Now reduced to a weeping mess in the crowd, old Wang listens as people comment on how gutted the original seller must be. Another onlooker approaches him, asking with a grin, "Why the long face, old Wang? Could it be?" Through his tears, old Wang tries to save a shred of dignity. "Nonsense, I've been doing this for so long, how could I sell it for such a low?" His voice trails off in despair. Just then, Jingqing steps forward, interrupting the deal with a shout. 550,000. I offer 550,000. Li Shimin turns his attention to her, a playful smirk on his face. He's clearly impressed, thinking, clear skin, pretty face, long legs, this Chiquita is the whole package. Ah, my goddess. He reflects that before gaining his ability, he wouldn't have even dared to look at a rich, beautiful girl like her. Li Shimin smirks, thinking to himself that with his newfound ability to see probabilities, picking up attractive women would be incredibly easy. Nearby, a beautiful woman named Jingqing looks on with disgust, wondering why this creep is staring at her. She internally complains that she has to be there to get a specific goblet to appease her angry grandfather. Li Shimin, holding the very goblet Jingqing is after, uses his power and sees she has a 100% probability of wanting to buy it. He wonders if he can make her pay more. Suddenly, a brilliant idea sparks in Li Shimin's mind. He spots the original seller, old Wang, in the crowd and loudly exclaims that the goblet he bought for a mere 2,000 yuan is actually worth over 550,000. The crowd immediately recognizes old Wang and starts mocking him for missing such a treasure and selling it for almost nothing. Overwhelmed by the public humiliation, old Wang crumbles in despair. Having heard the true value, Jingqing angrily confronts Li Shimin, demanding if he's going to sell it for 550,000 or not, but he just gives her a smug grin. Just then, an elderly man in traditional green robes appears, also interested in the goblet. Li Shimin calmly tells Jingqing she's being unreasonable, as he was already negotiating with this man first. Jingqing confidently retorts that since no money has exchanged hands, the deal isn't sealed yet, meaning she can still make an offer. The elderly man, Old Li, observes Jingqing, thinking to himself that her pompous attitude seems strangely familiar. Li Shimin breaks into a cold sweat, caught in the middle of the tense standoff between the two determined buyers. Playing it smart, Li Shimin steps back with a smile, suggesting that since he's not the one buying, the two of them should negotiate amongst themselves. Jingqing smirks, suspecting that Li Shimin and Old Li are working together in a classic ploy to artificially hike up the price. Thinking she's being played, Jingqing starts a bidding war with Old Li. The price quickly escalates from 560,000 to 570, then 580, until a final bid of 600,000 is declared. As Old Li is about to bid 700,000, he has a sudden realization. He stops and asks Jingqing if she is related to an old codger named D. Menon. Jingqing's attitude completely changes as she smiles brightly and confirms that D. Menon is her grandfather. Old Li bursts into laughter, exclaiming what a small world it is. He reveals that he is a friend of her grandfather and realizes she must have been sent to get the goblet for him. Old Li introduces himself as Li Weigua, a history professor and colleague of her grandfather. Jingqing recognizes him as her grandfather's old friend Li, and the two happily catch up, forgetting about the auction. Feeling ignored, an annoyed Li Shimin interrupts their reunion, impatiently asking if they still intend to buy the goblet. Jingqing turns back with a look of determination and gives a firm yes. With the deal settled at 600,000 yuan, Jingqing cheerfully leads Old Li away, promising to arrange for him to have tea with her grandfather. Li Shimin watches them go, bemused by the turn of events. A moment later, Li Shimin's phone beeps. A notification from his bank confirms that 600,000 yuan has been deposited into his account. Looking at his account balance, Li Shimin grins. Even though his initial valuation was slightly off, he still managed to flip the item for 300 times what he paid for it. He revels in the feeling of being a millionaire thanks to his Midas touch. As he hands the boxed goblet to Jingqing, he can't help but feel like a true anime protagonist with his newfound powers. Feeling bold from his victory, Li Shimin decides to press his luck further, cheekily asking the beautiful Miss D for her WeChat contact. Instead of asking directly, Li Shimin tries a smoother approach, telling Jingqing that since she's so interested in antiques, he'll give her a call the next time he finds a valuable item. Jingqing is disgusted by his attempt. In her mind, she sees him as a ridiculous frog trying to eat swan meat, an expression for someone punching far above their weight. Undeterred, Li Shimin tries to get her attention again with a casual, "Hey girl," which only infuriates her more. She whirls around and yells back at him, angrily asking who he thinks he is to call her his girl. Clutching the box, she internally scoffs at him, dismissing him as an arrogant kid who just got lucky and thinks he's the son of destiny. With a condescending glare, she challenges his arrogant tone, sarcastically remarking that he talks as if he's older than her. Her challenge piques his interest. Li Shimin decides to test his ability and find out the probability of her actually being older than him. A smug smile creeps across his face. He finds her proud and fiery attitude attractive, thinking to himself that a woman like her is worthy of being with him. Determined to break through her arrogant exterior, he decides to use his success rate ability to show her just how capable he really is. He activates his power, first checking the probability of her being 20 years old. The result comes back as a definitive 100%. Li Shimin notes that he is also 20, with a birthday on September 30th. He begins using his ability to narrow down her birth month, quickly ruling out October, November, and December as they all show 0% probability. He's puzzled by the results, which implies she must be younger than him. This leads him to a startling hypothesis. Could she have been born on the very same day as him? While Li Shimin is lost in his mental calculations, Jingqing's patience runs out. She snaps at him, demanding to know what he's doing. Completely absorbed, he holds up a hand to silence her, telling her to give him a minute while he concentrates. Surrounded by a blue aura, Li Shimin focuses intensely. Using his own birth time of 3:23 p.m. as a reference, he rapidly calculates the probability for different time slots, eliminating them one by one. Suddenly, he figures it out. He erupts in triumphant laughter, marveling at the incredible coincidence that their birthdays are only a minute apart. Jingqing calls him out for wasting her time, but Li Shimin is now ready. He grins, thinking to himself that he's about to completely shatter her arrogant spirit. He decides to toy with her, turning away and saying he's not ready to tell her yet, which only serves to annoy her further. Then, he begins his grand reveal. "I will show you what a real god is," he says, confidently stating that she is 20 years old and was born at the end of September. Jingqing is completely stunned by the accuracy of his statement, stammering in disbelief. Li Shimin savors her shock, smugly asking if she's wondering how he knew. He simply says that it was all calculated. She narrows her eyes, trying to rationalize what just happened. She concludes that he's just being complacent and trying to show off with cheap metaphysical tricks. Trying to regain her composure, she scoffs and turns away, dismissing his impossible knowledge as nothing more than a joke. Seeing her disbelief, Li Shimin knows he has her on the ropes. He decides to deliver the final, undeniable proof, playfully pretending to do one last calculation on his fingers to build the suspense. He then reveals the final, impossibly specific detail. "You were born on the afternoon of September 30th, around 3:30. The statement hangs in the air, leaving Jingqing utterly speechless as the surrounding crowd erupts in murmurs. The crowd begins to murmur, debating whether Li Shimin is a real fortune teller or some kind of fraud. Given Jingqing's shocked face, they can't tell if his prediction was real or fake. The skepticism grows, with one onlooker suggesting that no one can know a person's exact birthday in this day and age. Another man agrees, concluding that Li Shimin must be a pervert who stalked Jingqing to gather her information beforehand. Li Shimin is annoyed to hear the crowd calling him a pervert. He thinks to himself that he'll show them what his true ability is really capable of. As Jingqing begins to walk away, he calls out that he's not finished yet. He then corrects his previous statement, saying her birth time wasn't 3:30, but 3:24. With a look of intense focus, Li Shimin unleashes his final, most powerful move. He declares that she was born at exactly 3:24 p.m. and 36 seconds. Completely shaken by this impossible level of detail, Jingqing pulls out her phone to verify his claim. While the onlookers watch in anticipation, Jingqing makes a call. Li Shimin smirks, casually asking her what's wrong. She urgently asks her mom for her birth time. Her mother replies casually that it was around 3:30 in the afternoon on September 30th, wondering why she doesn't remember. Jingqing presses for more specifics, asking if it was exactly 3:24 p.m. Her mother can't remember the exact minute, and says she'll have to find her birth certificate. 3 minutes later, her mother returns with the definitive answer. 3:24 p.m. and 36 seconds. Jingqing is left in a state of absolute shock, unable to respond to her mother's questions. Seeing her stunned silence, Li Shimin can't help but tease her, commenting on how embarrassed he'd be if she keeps staring at him like that. Flustered and angry, Jingqing storms off, muttering that she shouldn't have wasted her time being curious about a guy like him. As she walks away, he casually calls out, trying to downplay his incredible feat by claiming he was just kidding and guessed the whole thing. However, his smug, knowing smirk reveals that he is anything but guessing. His nonchalant attitude infuriates her. She spins around and gets in his face, pointing out that he was accurate to the second and accusing him of treating her like an idiot. Her anger doesn't faze him at all. In fact, he finds her even more attractive when she's mad, thinking to himself that she is truly a goddess-level beauty. He finally drops the act with a grin, admitting that he wasn't kidding and that he had indeed calculated the result. Jingqing eyes him suspiciously, questioning if he is seriously trying to claim he's a fortune teller. Leaning into the role, Li Shimin strikes a classic Taoist master pose in his imagination, arguing that not all fortune tellers are liars and that she has witnessed his methods firsthand. He then pushes his luck, leaning in to make another, far more personal prediction about the color of her underwear. Flustered, Jingqing blushes and tells him to shut up. He continues to tease her, noting that since she never mentioned a boyfriend, she must be single. This is the final straw for Jingqing. She completely loses her temper, screaming at him to stop looking at her and to get away, startling him with her explosive reaction. Her intense reaction sparks a new theory in Li Shimin's mind. He hypothesizes that her outburst means she dislikes men and has never been in a relationship. He quickly uses his ability to check the probability, and a giant 100% flashes before his eyes. He is so shocked by the result that she has, in fact, never been in love that he accidentally says his thoughts out loud. Jingqing, still blushing from his previous comments, catches his remark about her love life. She whips around, her face a mix of anger and embarrassment, and demands to know what he just said. The crowd immediately notices her shocked and flustered expression, realizing that Li Shimin must have said something significant. Li Shimin continues to feign innocence, asking her with a smirk if she didn't understand what he said. Unable to take the public humiliation any longer, Jingqing grabs him by the wrist and yells for him to come with her. She drags him away at a run, leaving the confused crowd of onlookers behind them. In a secluded alley, she slams him against a wall and furiously demands to know how he knows so much personal information about her. He remains perfectly calm and composed, nonchalantly replying that he simply raised his finger and counted, sticking to his mysterious fortune-teller persona. Jingqing, completely flustered, refuses to accept his ridiculous explanation, shouting that it's nonsense. With a taunting smile, he challenges her disbelief and decides to reveal one final piece of information, something so secret it would be impossible to guess. He leans in close, their faces nearly touching, and whispers his most shocking secret yet, that he knows about the 3 moles on her body. He then smugly adds that divining someone's personality isn't easy, implying his abilities are far-reaching. This final, impossibly intimate detail completely shatters her defenses. Blushing and trembling with a mixture of shock and rage, Jingqing is left utterly speechless, unable to comprehend how this stranger could know the most hidden secrets of her body. On Li Shimin's phone, a notification pops up. New friend added successfully. Li Shimin and Jingqing part ways. He tells her he'll be in touch if he has any good opportunities for her. With a sly grin, Li Shimin adds that she's also welcome to ask him for fortune-telling advice anytime. As he walks away, humming, he marvels at his newfound ability. The success rate is so powerful that it can even reveal people's secrets. He hadn't expected to run into such a pretty girl, let alone use his success rate ability to see right through her. Suddenly, his eyes widen. Something feels off. He stops in his tracks and sees an old man talking on the phone. He instinctively checks his ability, wondering, what is the chance that Jingqing's secret will be discovered at home? He stares in disbelief as the success rate for her secret being discovered starts rapidly climbing from 0% to 20%. He wonders if her secret is already being exposed. His eyes light up as a bold idea strikes him. He realizes that this sudden change must be a direct result of his interaction with Jingqing. A wave of panic washes over him. Could that old man he saw on the phone have contacted Jingqing's family, and exposed everything? The 100% success rate of her secret being exposed crashes down on him. He cries out in his mind, No, I didn't mean for this to happen. Meanwhile, Di Qingqing glances at her phone, unaware of the chaos unfolding. A message from Bai Wu appears on her screen. It's Li Shimin, offering another divination for the price she paid, warning her that her secret is probably already out. Di Qingqing's eyes widen in horror, her hand flying to her mouth in shock. She immediately turns and runs back towards Li Shimin's stall, yelling his alias, Bai Wu. He, however, sits calmly, looking down at his phone. An angry text from her flashes on his screen. Bai Wu, what do you mean? Li Shimin calmly contemplates the situation, figuring her parents should contact her within the next half hour. His eyes narrow as he refines his prediction. Will it be 15 minutes? Or maybe even just 5? He begins typing a response, his abilities interface showing a 100% success rate for his next prediction. He sends the message. Cough, I just calculated it again. Congratulations, your family will contact you in less than 5 minutes. Li Shimin glances over his shoulder, a clinking sound effect emphasizing his anticipation as he watches Di Qingqing in the distance. Right on schedule, her phone rings. It's her mom. Di Qingqing is stunned as her mom tells her to come back home because they have something to ask her. Di Qingqing stands frozen, phone in hand. From a distance, Li Shimin watches and muses that she's got a lot of explaining to do, noting that parents are always a stubborn obstacle in the path of young love. He grins, thinking how much his life has changed since leaving home with his success rate ability. It's a pity, he thinks, that he can't even tease a beautiful girl without it turning into a major incident. Suddenly, Li Shimin is startled by his phone ringing. He answers, slightly annoyed, asking his mom why she's calling so suddenly. His voice echoes in the street as he yells into the phone. A blind date? Mom, I'm only 20. I won't go on a blind date. Later that evening, despite his protests, Li Shimin sits in a cafe. He sighs, figuring that since the appointment was made, he might as well be a gentleman and arrive early. He looks at a picture of his blind date, an elegant woman with blue hair, and muses that even beautiful, powerful-looking women like her need to go on blind dates. Just then, he glances up from his phone, his expression shifting as he notices something. The very same woman from the photo, Mu Ir, walks through the door, looking stunning. But trailing behind her is a familiar face in a red jacket. It's Di Qingqing. She grabs Mu Ir's arm, looking shocked to see Li Shimin sitting there. Li Shimin takes a sip of his drink as a sudden, wild thought crosses his mind. As Di Qingqing frantically gestures and talks to Mu Ir, Li Shimin's ability activates, confirming his suspicion. His blind date is connected to Di Qingqing. He spits out his water in shock. He realizes Mu Ir's family must have arranged this blind date, and his previous interaction with Di Qingqing has somehow led him into this mess. His ability shows a 100% chance of a dramatic scene unfolding. One person wants to break up, the other wants to stay together. Li Shimin realizes he stumbled into a soap opera. A close-up shows Mu Ir's face, her green eyes narrowed with a cold, determined look. She decisively shrugs off Di Qingqing's hand, ignoring her friend's desperate pleas. Li Shimin flinches at the intensity of her glare, thinking to himself that her eyes look like they could kill someone. Mu Ir walks straight up to his table. You are Bai Wu, right? She asks, introducing herself as Mu Ir and adding, I think you are a very good man. Before he can even process what's happening, she looks him in the eye and declares, Let's be together. The entire cafe is stunned into silence. A man at a nearby table spits out his drink in disbelief, while Li Shimin's face is a mask of pure shock. In the background, Di Qingqing bursts into tears, calling out, Sister Mu. Caught between a crying Di Qingqing and a stone-faced Mu Ir, Li Shimin can only think one thing. This is too messy. Mu Ir presses on, asking him directly, What's your displeasure with me? Li Shimin panics, waving his hands frantically. No, you are great. Everything, he stammers, thinking to himself that this feels like a classic fairy jump. A beautiful woman falling into his lap, which is usually a sign of a trap. She leans in closer, her tone leaving no room for argument. I'm being serious, not a joke. Before Li Shimin can process her serious tone, Mu Ir's expression hardens with resolve. She suddenly lunges forward, grabbing the front of his shirt. In one swift move, she pulls him into a tight embrace, leaving him completely stunned. As his mind races to catch up, one frantic thought screams through his head. This is the fairy jump. It's a trap. Li Shimin tries to push Mu Ir away, completely flustered and confused. What now? He thinks. What is this woman trying to do? He looks from her fiercely determined expression back to his own shocked face, the situation escalating far beyond his control. As she holds him, all Li Shimin can feel is pure, unadulterated confusion. From the side, Di Qingqing watches the scene unfold, her face a mask of complete horror and disbelief. In her mind, Di Qingqing feels utterly defeated, as if she's been left alone under a solitary, crushing spotlight. Mu Ir finally releases him and calmly says, Let's go. Li Shimin, still bewildered, asks, Huh? Go where? She gives him a serene smile and replies, Go to my house and see my parents. As Di Qingqing runs out of the restaurant, Li Shimin notices that Mu Ir doesn't look happy at all. This wasn't a lucky break for him. Something else was going on. His expression hardens as the realization hits him. She's just using me as a shield to make Di Qingqing give up. He stands up, feeling conflicted. He knows he's being taken advantage of, and being at her mercy like this feels deeply wrong. Mu Ir simply stares back at him, her gaze unwavering and challenging. Li Shimin reasons with himself. Without his success rate ability, he wouldn't have known about her connection to Di Qingqing or that she was hiding something. He realizes she is lying by omission. He sits back down, crossing his arms with a defiant look on his face, deciding not to play along. Mu Ir asks him plainly, "Do you want to go?" Li Shimin is internally shaken, wondering if she's actually serious about taking him to see her parents. He checks his ability and is shocked to see a 100% success rate. Seriously, he thinks. Is she not just using me as a shield? Does she really want to find a boyfriend? He continues to puzzle over it. Why would she want to bring him to see her parents? Is it just a ploy to appease them? The undeniable 100% success rate hits him like a series of physical blows, leaving no room for doubt. He calls out her name, Mu Ir. She turns back unfazed. "What?" she asks. "You've gotten what you wanted, and now you want to regret it?" Furious, Li Shimin clenches his fists. "Damn it. You're the one who made the first move. This isn't an advantage I wanted to take." She simply replies, "No, I'm not." Li Shimin is losing his mind. He hasn't even agreed to date her, yet he's been dragged into this mess. He has no idea what Mu Ir is thinking. The scene shifts to a luxurious, modern living room. Mu Ir walks in and cheerfully announces, "Dad, Mom, I'm back." Her mother appears, brandishing a feather duster. You," she scolds. "Weren't you supposed to go on a blind date? Did you stand him up again?" Mu Ir smoothly gestures to a terrified Li Shimin. "Mom, this is my boyfriend by Wu." Trying to hide his panic, Li Shimin forces a smile and squeaks, "Hello, Auntie." Sweating profusely with a strained grin, Li Shimin mentally kicks himself for being so soft-hearted and getting dragged into this. He decides his only option is to act along with her for now. He glances at Mu Ir, a wry thought crossing his mind. Is this what they call a hero saving the beauty? Mu Ir's mother beams with joy. "Ir, you have a boyfriend? Why didn't you tell me sooner?" A loud voice booms from the back of the house. "What? Really?" As he and Mu Ir are led inside, Li Shimin senses a dangerous presence, as if a knife is waiting for him. A man who can only be Mu Ir's father suddenly grabs Li Shimin, exclaiming how energetic he looks. Li Shimin is frozen with terror. Mu Ir smoothly concocts a backstory, claiming they dated in high school but broke up for their studies, and have only recently gotten back together. Her parents are completely convinced, with her mother noting this must be why her grades slipped senior year. The father enthusiastically pulls the bewildered Li Shimin inside, while the mother waves from the kitchen, promising to cook him a feast. As his parents drag him away, Li Shimin can't believe how enthusiastic they are. In the background, Mu Ir watches with a faint, amused smile. The father forcibly sits Li Shimin on the bed next to Mu Ir, telling them to chat while he goes to get some fruit. The situation grows more awkward by the second. Once her father is gone, Li Shimin leans toward Mu Ir with a mischievous grin and asks if her parents are really her own. He sneakily uses his ability, which confirms with 100% certainty that they are her biological parents, much to Mu Ir's slight embarrassment. Just then, her mother walks in with a platter of fruit, causing the two to laugh awkwardly. Her father appears right behind her, chastising his wife for interrupting the young couple. Peeking through the doorway, the father gives them a conspiratorial thumbs up and encourages them to continue what they were doing. Blushing, Mu Ir explains that this is the first time she's brought a boyfriend home, so her parents are a bit overexcited. In the background, her father tells her mother to go prepare an elaborate soup for dinner. Li Shimin's eyes narrow. He feels like he's missing something important about this whole situation. He can't help but wonder, are all parents this enthusiastic and proactive when meeting a potential son-in-law for the first time? Meanwhile, Mu Ir's parents are shamelessly eavesdropping outside the bedroom door. The father whispers impatiently, "Why is there no movement? This is a great opportunity. Why don't they just go for it?" The mother frets, worrying what might happen if Li Shimin gets fresh with their daughter. Her husband quickly covers her mouth, telling her to be quiet so the child inside doesn't hear them. He grins menacingly, revealing a massive meat cleaver he had hidden. "Don't worry," he says, "I'm already prepared. If that kid really dares to try anything." Back in the room, Li Shimin decides he needs to clear the air. He's been dragged into this mess and wants to understand what's really going on. He takes a step towards Mu Ir, who is standing by the bed, and begins, "We should." Thinking he's making a move, Mu Ir startles and quickly backs away from him. Li Shimin holds up his hands with a reassuring grin. "Don't get it wrong," he says. "I mean, let's sit down and talk." Looking embarrassed, Mu Ir apologizes, explaining that she still needs some time to adjust to their new relationship. Seeing her discomfort, Li Shimin takes a step back. "Oh yes, you are right, sorry," he says gallantly. If you are really nervous, should I stay away from you first? Mu-Ir looks up, a blush on her cheeks. Thanks, but you don't need to, she says, surprising him. I can try to adapt. Li Shimin is struck by her beauty, thinking it would be genuinely nice if she were his girlfriend. He activates his ability and sees an 80% chance that she wouldn't be disgusted if he held her hand. His imagination runs wild. He sees a 76% success rate for hugging her, and then, blushing furiously, he even wonders if he could kiss her. He snaps back to reality, scolding himself. This is all just a ruse to deceive her parents. As a good, single young man, how could he possibly take advantage of the situation like this? He hardens his resolve. He can't let this charade continue. He decides he must force her to be honest with him. He reaches his hand out, about to confront her directly. But in his haste, he trips over his own feet and falls spectacularly, landing face first on the floor in front of her. Hearing the commotion, the door bursts open and her father charges in, brandishing the meat cleaver. "Ir," he yells. "What's happening? Are you all right?" The father takes in the scene, Li Shimin on the floor, Mu-Ir standing over him. He immediately assumes the worst. Mortified, Mu-Ir yells at her father. "Dad, what are you doing?" Her mother quickly grabs her husband's ear, laughing nervously and trying to play it off. Nothing. Your dad was just surprised." Li Shimin, still sprawled on the floor, is utterly baffled by the chaotic scene. What is happening, he thinks. Is that a kitchen knife? He's completely lost. I didn't do anything. I was just dragged into this mess, so why did he rush in with a knife? After his parents finally leave, Li Shimin lets out a sigh of relief, wiping sweat from his brow. That was close. Continuing from the previous chapter, Li Shimin finds himself in an awkward situation, realizing that his act is not convincing at all. He can tell from the father's expression that the old man doesn't believe he is Mu-Ir's boyfriend. In the living room, Mu-Ir's mother, a woman with curly red hair, scolds her husband. She calls him crazy for grabbing a kitchen knife, asking if he intended to interrogate their daughter's guest with it. The father, however, is resolute in his suspicion. He mutters to himself that even if the boy looks good, he can't risk him having ill intentions towards his precious daughter, Ir. Back in the room, Li Shimin is sweating, thinking about the close call. He feels that pretending to be a boyfriend is a dangerous game, and that no one could possibly understand the pressure he is under. Just then Mu-Ir, a tall, elegant woman with long, dark blue hair, enters the room and asks if he's okay. Li Shimin, deciding he's had enough, declares that this is a family affair, and he doesn't want to play this role anymore. He directly addresses Mu-Ir, suggesting they should seriously reconsider their arrangement, implying that it's not too late to back out. Mu-Ir's expression hardens. With a sharp, angry glare, she confronts him, asking if he's already trying to regret their deal. Li Shimin doesn't back down, questioning her judgment. He asks if she seriously thinks they can keep up the act and hide the truth from her parents forever. He continues his lecture, stating that he no longer wants to act with her. He points out that her parents are only acting this way because they care for her, and she is using his acting to deceive them. He advises that the only real solution is to communicate frankly with them. His words hit home, leaving Mu-Ir completely speechless and unable to respond. Feeling cornered, Mu-Ir's demeanor changes from anger to desperation. She grabs Li Shimin's hand, pleading with him to help her just this one time. Li Shimin flinches, letting out a pained hiss as she grabs him, clearly overwhelmed by the escalating situation. Unbeknownst to them, Mu-Ir's parents are peeking through the doorway, startled by the scene unfolding before them. They completely misinterpret the tense conversation. The mother, with stars in her eyes, excitedly whispers that the little couple must be having a quarrel, blaming her husband's earlier actions. The mother suddenly panics. She exclaims that her husband's intimidation with the knife is going to make them break up, and that they have to think of a way to fix the situation. Deciding to leave, Li Shimin walks out of the room, only to run straight into Mu-Ir's parents, who are rushing towards the room in a panic. An incredibly awkward moment of silence passes as Li Shimin and the parents stare at each other, both sides caught completely off guard. Li Shimin quickly decides he can't stay there any longer. He thinks that remaining would only cause more harm than good, and begins to walk away, leaving the confused parents watching him. Just as he is about to leave, the mother rushes forward to stop him. She claims she accidentally got his shoes wet while serving soup, urging him not to put them on. Li Shimin is utterly flabbergasted by this obvious and desperate attempt to make him stay. He can only shout what? In sheer disbelief. A dramatic shot shows his perfectly fine shoes are now soaking wet, thanks to the mother's deliberate accident. Mu-Ir arrives at the scene, questioning what her mother just did. Her father joins in, scolding his wife for being so careless and wondering how Li Shimin can go home with wet shoes. With a cunning look, the mother executes her plan, looking at her husband and suggesting that since his shoes are wet, why don't they just let him stay the night? Li Shimin looks on with a tired expression, having already made his intentions clear to Mu-Ir. But now, with his shoes held hostage, her parents are eagerly asking him to stay the night, leaving him cornered. Trapped but not defeated, Li Shimin comes up with a ridiculously convoluted excuse. He politely declines, claiming he must rush off to accompany a patient to the hospital. The niece of his seventh uncle's grandma's son. A person so distantly related it sounds completely made up. Without his shoes, Li Shimin announces his departure and quickly escapes out the door, leaving a stunned Mu-Ir behind. Mu-Ir and her parents are left completely speechless, trying to process the bizarre excuse Li Shimin just gave about his seventh uncle and grandma. Later that night, safely in his own bed, Li Shimin reflects on the chaotic events. He concludes that getting involved in such complicated schemes is too much trouble, and decides that focusing on making money is a much safer and more enjoyable path. He lies back, hoping for good things to come tomorrow. The next day, in an antique market, a chubby stall owner named Boss Wong complains to himself. He grumbles about being scammed by a rookie the previous day, which cost him a lot of money and made him lose face. As Boss Wong is polishing his wares, Li Shimin's shadow falls over his stall. A voice from off-screen, belonging to Li Shimin, asks if he has anything good for sale. Boss Wong immediately puts on a sycophantic, greasy smile, welcoming the potential customer and inviting him to browse his collection. Boss Wong is shocked to see that the customer is none other than Li Shimin, who casually strolls up while munching on a street food wrap. With a smirk, Li Shimin greets the dealer as Mr. Wong and playfully asks if he has gone to the countryside to collect any valuable artifacts recently. Boss Wong's fake smile returns as he claims it's a great coincidence. He boasts that he was out all night collecting many new artifacts and invites Li Shimin to take a look. However, Boss Wong's inner thoughts reveal his true, greedy intentions. He's plotting to offload his fake goods onto Li Shimin, confident that he can make a profit from the seemingly naive young man. Playing along, Li Shimin takes a bite of his food and tells Boss Wong to show him his best products. Boss Wong begins his sales pitch, presenting a set of porcelain vases and a horse statue, claiming it's a valuable find from a rural village. To make his story more convincing, he brags that he spent a hefty 50,000 yuan just to acquire this single set of porcelain. He leans in and whispers his fabricated tale, claiming the villagers told him the items date back to the Sui dynasty and even passed through the glorious period of Wu Zetian. Li Shimin looks thoroughly unimpressed. With a sly grin, Boss Wong tries to reel his customer in, asking him to guess the porcelain's true origin. Li Shimin puts on a show of great excitement, his jaw dropping as he shouts, "From the Tang Sankai dynasty?" Boss Wong enthusiastically confirms the lie, pointing out the supposed workmanship and colors. With Li Shimin seemingly hooked, he adds that since he's a regular customer, he'll get a special price. Feigning complete naivety, Li Shimin's eyes sparkle as he asks the boss how much he's selling these valuables for. Feeling confident in his scam, Boss Wong smirks and turns the question back on him, asking how much a boy like him thinks it's worth. Li Shimin's ridiculously low offer of 60 leaves Boss Wong utterly shocked and offended. Li Shimin clarifies that he will pay 60 yuan for the set. He then begins his counter-scam, praising the skill of the forger and the beauty of the pattern, essentially calling it a high-quality fake. Boss Wong begins to sweat, realizing his bluff might be called. He stammers that Li Shimin is mistaken and that 60 yuan is far too cheap. Li Shimin continues his performance, placing a hand on Boss Wong's chest and declaring with mock sincerity that if he were to buy all this porcelain for a mere 60 yuan, he would no longer have a conscience. Li Shimin's reverse psychology hits its mark perfectly. Boss Wong flinches back, exclaiming in terror that Li Shimin scared him to death, now fearing that his entire scam has been exposed. With a smug grin, Li Shimin pats the flustered dealer on the shoulder, promising not to let him suffer. He then states he will consider a reasonable price, taking full control of the negotiation and preparing to press his advantage. Li Shimin continues his act, standing before the porcelain set and nonchalantly asking if it is truly from the Tang Sankai dynasty, making Boss Wong sweat nervously. Internally, however, Li Shimin consults his special ability. A system window pops up showing a genuine product probability of only 14.28%. He scoffs, thinking that he already knew the items were fakes. But then, something clicks in his mind. His eyes widen in sudden, shocked realization. His mind races as he does the math. 14.28% is roughly 1/7. He wonders if, among the 7 porcelain pieces, one of them is actually a genuine antique. If that were true, it could be worth a staggering 10 million yuan. To confirm his suspicion, Li Shimin focuses his ability again. A new window appears. There are 100% genuine products, 90% worth 10 millions. Armed with this knowledge, he turns to Boss Wong and coolly asks for the price. Boss Wong, completely oblivious to the treasure he possesses, believes his reverse psychology is working. With a sinister grin, he thinks to himself that the deal is done. He lays the trap, telling Li Shimin that since he seems to enjoy the set so much, he can have it for 600,000 yuan, an outrageous price for what he believes are fakes. Li Shimin feigns shock at the high price, while Boss Wong fantasizes about becoming a god of wealth, swimming in the massive profit he is about to make. Seeing Li Shimin hesitate, Boss Wong condescendingly offers a discount, as if doing him a great favor, dropping the price to 500,000 yuan. Barely containing his glee, Li Shimin immediately accepts the offer, saying he will transfer the money right away. The transaction is completed in an instant. Li Shimin shows the 500,000 yuan transfer confirmation on his phone, leaving Boss Wong momentarily stunned that he agreed so easily. Not wasting a second, Li Shimin scoops up all the porcelain boxes and makes a mad dash away from the stall, leaving everyone in his wake completely bewildered. As he watches Li Shimin flee, a horrifying thought begins to dawn on Boss Wong. He breaks into a cold sweat, wondering if there might have actually been a real antique in the set he just sold. He quickly dismisses the idea, trying to reassure himself that it's impossible. He remembers buying the pieces from a well-known replica workshop in a mountain village. His arrogance returns, and he scoffs at the younger generation, thinking Li Shimin is a proud fool who believes he can get lucky like a protagonist in a novel. "You are still too young," he mutters. Boss Wong laughs, gloating over how easy it was to make 500,000. He smugly concludes that a rookie will always be a rookie, and that Li Shimin just lost a fortune for nothing. Just as he settles down to enjoy his supposed victory, a flashy pink Hummer comes screeching to a halt right in front of his stall. A frantic young woman with short black hair and a white and pink hoodie, named Che Xiaoxiao, jumps out of the car and shouts for the boss. With an intense and desperate look, Che Xiaoxiao demands to know where the Tang Sankai artifacts she sold him are, offering to buy them back for 1,000,000 yuan. The offer leaves Boss Wong utterly catatonic. The world fades away, replaced by cute, mocking cat faces as he blankly processes the words. What? 1,000,000. Che Xiaoxiao's desperation grows, and she begins to beg. She explains that one of the porcelain pieces is extremely important to her grandfather and wasn't for sale, pleading with him to sell it back. The reality of his mistake hits Boss Wong like a ton of bricks. His soul seems to float out of his body as he dejectedly explains that he just sold the entire set to someone else. A rival stall owner, having witnessed the whole affair, shouts out, confirming that Li Shimin had just spent 500,000 yuan to buy all the new products from the workshop and congratulating Boss Wong on his massive, ill-fated profit. The rival dealer continues to mock Boss Wong, saying he wishes he could meet such a fool. Oblivious to the disaster, Boss Wong smugly boasts that you have to be persuasive to deal with young people. Finally, the full weight of his blunder crashes down on Boss Wong. As Che Xiaoxiao cries that it's over, he realizes his colossal error, lamenting that he put the real piece on the shelf by mistake and that his own stupidity has led to his ruin. Still in shock, Boss Wong tries to console the crying Che Xiaoxiao with his flawed logic. He tells her not to worry so much, claiming that even if the porcelain was her grandfather's work, it's just a fake after all. His words only enrage Che Xiaoxiao further. She yells at him, revealing that the piece is a genuine Tang Sankai heirloom, an ancestral treasure that her grandfather refused to sell even when offered 10,000,000 yuan. The words 10,000,000 hit Boss Wong like a physical blow, and he can only grimace in agony as the true scale of his catastrophic mistake sinks in. The rival dealer howls with laughter, mercilessly mocking Boss Wong's terrible business sense. He recounts how Wong sold a bronze wine vessel worth 600,000 for just 2,000, and now a 10,000,000 porcelain for 500,000. Desperate, Che Xiaoxiao asks where the buyer went. The completely defeated Boss Wong can only point vaguely down the street. Meanwhile, Li Shimin has found his way to an elegant antique shop called Gu Yun Pavilion. He is sitting with an elderly, white-haired man, Old Li, who is appraising the Tang Sankai camel statue. Old Li examines the piece with a magnifying glass, nodding in approval. He declares that it is in very good condition. He then reveals that he has a camel just like it, a rare antique thousands of years old. He mentions he heard Boss Wong sold it, and for a moment, he suspected his own granddaughter had secretly sold his. The pieces start clicking into place for Li Shimin, a Tang Sankai from the Tang dynasty, exactly the same as the one this old man owns. He realizes he must be holding the old man's lost property. Li Shimin uses his ability one more time. The system confirms with 100% certainty that it is the exact same Tang Sankai. The shock of the confirmation causes him to spit his tea everywhere. Old Li asks if anything is the matter. Li Shimin, flustered, quickly wipes his mouth and claims he just accidentally spilled some water. His mind races, wondering if Boss Wong could have stolen it. But a quick check with his ability confirms a 0% chance of theft, ruling the greedy dealer out. Then the horrifying truth dawns on him. If Boss Wong didn't steal it, then it must have been Old Li's own granddaughter who sold the priceless family heirloom. He stares at the unsuspecting old man, thinking to himself what a terribly wasteful granddaughter he has. Old Li, unaware of the drama, gives his final appraisal, estimating the piece could fetch 12,000,000 at auction. He then makes an offer to buy it back from Li Shimin for 9,000,000. Li Shimin considers the offer. 9,000,000 is an astronomical profit, and he recognizes that the antique rightfully belongs to this old man anyway. With a gracious and knowing smile, Li Shimin decides to do the right thing and agrees to sell it back. Delighted with the outcome, old Li says, "It's good," and reaches into his pocket to pull out his business card. He hands the card to Li Shimin, telling him to get in contact if he finds any other good items in the future. Li Shimin accepts, having secured a powerful and wealthy new contact. Having concluded his very profitable business, Li Shimin leaves the Guyun Pavilion with a sense of accomplishment. Just outside, he runs into Che Xiaoxiao, who is frantically searching for the shop. The business card in Li Shimin's hand confirms her grandfather's name is Che Yongkong. Li Shimin watches her panicked state and thinks to himself that she looks like she's about to fall. His ability confirms this with a 100% probability. As she rushes past him towards the shop, he calls out, warning her to be careful not to fall. She whirls around, annoyed by the interruption. "How can I fall down?" she snaps back, accusing him of talking nonsense. Li Shimin puts a hand to his forehead in annoyance, thinking to himself that this girl really doesn't know what's good for her, calling him a liar. Suddenly, a realization dawns on Li Shimin. He wonders if this girl is the granddaughter of Mr. Che, the one who sold the Tang Sankai. As he faces a young, impulsive-looking girl with short black hair named Che Xiaoxiao, a system window pops up in his vision, labeling her wasteful granddaughter 100%. Li Shimin's eyes widen in disbelief. It's a huge coincidence, but it really is her. Without warning, Che Xiaoxiao lets out a yell and charges straight towards him. Caught completely off guard, Li Shimin panics as she rushes at him with a bizarre expression on her face. As she trips and falls forward, Li Shimin instinctively catches her in his arms. Che Xiaoxiao looks up, completely baffled. She can't understand what trick he used to make her fall like that. The onlookers start to gossip, judging the two for being so offensive in broad daylight, wondering how the world has gotten so bad. Blushing with embarrassment and anger, Che Xiaoxiao shouts at Li Shimin, telling him to let her go immediately. Li Shimin retorts with a serious expression, telling her that she's the one who needs to let go of him. The scene freezes on the awkward and comical pose, with Che Xiaoxiao clinging onto Li Shimin as he stands there looking annoyed. Li Shimin says okay, and releases her, letting her drop to the ground. Having had enough of the situation, Li Shimin turns to go, saying he'll leave if there's nothing else. Che Xiaoxiao yells stop, and Li Shimin defensively throws his hands up, claiming he didn't do anything and that she was the one who jumped on him. Thinking fast, Che Xiaoxiao declares it's his lucky day. She claims she has an urgent matter to deal with and will leave her contact information so she can deal with him later, before quickly typing on her phone. As Che Xiaoxiao walks away into a building, Li Shimin looks down at the contact information she sent to his phone. He looks at the contact details she sent, noticing she set her nickname as Big Bro. Li Shimin muses that he didn't expect to find himself a big brother. Walking away with a confident smirk, Li Shimin wonders what he should spend his newfound fortune on, a car or a house. As Li Shimin walks through the market, he's spotted by a stout, greedy-looking man with a fan named Boss Wong, the very same antique seller he'd just bought the porcelain from. Boss Wong runs up to him and asks how much he sold the porcelain for. Li Shimin smugly replies that he sold it to the owner of Gu Yun Gu for 9 million. Boss Wong exclaims that's great, but Li Shimin internally notes that the man isn't surprised at all, even though he just missed out on a huge sum of money. Watching Li Shimin walk away, Boss Wong grins maliciously and mutters, "Brat, you just wait and see." Meanwhile, inside the Gu Yun Gu antique shop, an elderly, scholarly-looking man named Old Li meticulously inspects the Tang Sankai camel with a magnifying glass. From behind a wall, Che Xiaoxiao peeks in, her expression a mix of nervousness and anticipation. The scene shifts to a different room where Che Xiaoxiao now stands, looking anxious. A man with light blue hair sits calmly on a sofa as her grandfather, Old Li, shouts from off-screen, demanding that someone named Su would come inside. Old Li cheerfully asks the man with light blue hair what made him visit, pointing to the Tang Sankai and exclaiming that he came at a good time. A note highlights the journey of the antique. Sold for 200 yuan and bought back for a staggering 9 million. Che Xiaoxiao breaks into a cold sweat, realizing with horror that she was one step too late. Her own grandfather had bought back the antique she accidentally sold, putting her in a very difficult situation. Her grandfather, Old Li, notices her strange, stiff posture and asks her what's wrong. Panicking, Che Xiaoxiao flails her arms and insists that nothing is wrong at all. Old Li's expression turns menacing as he gets close to her, reminding her that the last time she was acting this unusual, she sold his treasured porcelain for a mere 10 yuan. A heavy, awkward silence falls between Che Xiaoxiao and her grandfather, Old Li, as the weight of his words hangs in the air. Both are frozen in shock. The realization finally hits Che Xiaoxiao. She points a trembling finger at her grandfather, who looks utterly stunned, and asks if he was the one who bought the antique. In a desperate attempt to escape, Che Xiaoxiao throws her hands up, claims she suddenly feels sick and needs to go to the hospital, and makes a run for it. Behind her, her grandfather roars her full name. Che Xiao. Xiao. As she flees, Che Xiaoxiao frantically calls her grandmother, sobbing and begging for help, crying that her grandpa is being cruel to her. In her terrified imagination, a demonic, red-eyed silhouette of her grandfather looms over her, bellowing, "Che Xiaoxiao, look what you have done!" Suddenly, a voice erupts from the phone. It's her grandmother, metaphorically punching old Li and yelling at him for scaring their lovely granddaughter. Che Xiaoxiao is stunned into silence. Che Xiaoxiao sprints through the antique district, regretting that everything happened so fast. She thinks that if she had known, she would have rushed to buy the piece back before her grandpa found out. She comes to a stop, thinking about the person who just left the Guyun pavilion. She wonders if it was the same guy who made her fall, and questions how his foresight could be so good. Meanwhile, Li Shimin is walking along when he suddenly gets a jolt, as if his senses are tingling with a premonition. He feels a sense of unease, thinking that the fat man, Boss Wong, was acting strangely. He gets a bad feeling that Boss Wong is planning to do something nasty to him. Just then, his ability activates, showing him a system window. Do something *T to you 100%. Li Shimin curses the system for being so frustratingly ambiguous. He ponders the meaning. Does it mean Boss Wong will hire someone to handle him, or that he'll try to scam him again? The system provides another, slightly clearer prediction. Pidgey 100%. Li Shimin just lets out a confident chuckle. He thinks to himself that now that he has the success rate ability in his hands, there's no way anyone can possibly scam or pit him. Walking past a white G-Wagon, he reflects that even with his superpower, finding valuable items in the antique street still depends on luck. He admits that if it wasn't for the reckless Che Xiaoxiao, he wouldn't have made millions so easily. Looking at her contact info, he scoffs. Mistakenly selling an antique for 200 yuan is just too shameful. He concludes that the world of the rich is truly hard to understand. A montage of his recent strange encounters with various women flashes through his mind, including his awkward embrace with Che Xiaoxiao. He muses on how weird the girls he's met recently are, and wonders what would happen if he didn't mess with them. Suddenly, a thought strikes him, and a chibi version of himself appears with a mischievous grin. He has a bold idea, and his ability confirms it with a new window. Tomorrow, leaks in the antique market, 100%. Li Shimin throws his arms up in excitement as cash rains down around him. He's figured it out. He can guess these things in advance. It's time for him to make even more money. With a greedy grin, he eyes a fancy white car, thinking that this must be a blessing from the god of wealth. After all, a man should have a good car. Having made up his mind to buy a car, he decides to find a dealership on a free day. As he walks, he heads towards a nearby bus stop. But as he approaches the bus stop, he's taken aback. Standing right there among the crowd, looking distressed, is Che Xiaoxiao. He can't believe she's here too. Li Shimin looks at his phone, reading a recent social media post from Che Xiaoxiao. She's desperately asking her friends for advice on how to apologize to her grandfather for upsetting him, adding that her car is parked nearby, but she's too scared to go get it. Standing in the crowded bus line, Li Shimin sighs and thinks to himself how incredibly stupid this girl is. He glances over at Che Xiaoxiao, who is oblivious and still staring at her phone. Li Shimin's attention is drawn to a creepy-looking man in a black hoodie standing near Che Xiaoxiao. He gets a bad feeling about the guy, wondering if he's a thief. The man in the hoodie, a pervert, subtly gets closer and closer to Che Xiaoxiao, who remains completely engrossed in her phone, unaware of the approaching danger. A sudden sense of alarm flashes in Li Shimin's eyes as his intuition screams that something is wrong. His ability confirms his fears with a blue system window. A pervert 100%. Without a second thought, he quickly types a warning message to Che Xiaoxiao on his phone. Che Xiaoxiao reads the message and looks over at Li Shimin annoyed. She wonders why he's here and why he's texting instead of just speaking to her. She sends a text back, calling him a crow's mouth for jinxing things. Annoyed, Li Shimin replies that he was just trying to help and vows not to warn her about anything in the future. Just then, the bus for Route 666 to the north of the city pulls up to the stop and slows down. As the crowd impatiently pushes forward to board the bus, the pervert uses the commotion to position himself right behind the distracted Che Xiaoxiao. The pervert accidentally presses against Che Xiaoxiao, placing his hand on her. He gives a slimy apology, blaming the crowd, but his creepy smile betrays his intentions. Che Xiaoxiao accepts his apology with an okay, but the pervert continues to leer at her with a disgusting, triumphant grin. Li Shimin watches, a sweat drop running down his face as he thinks in fury. Damn. This girl doesn't take it seriously. Li Shimin looks on in disbelief as the pervert begins to grope Che Xiaoxiao, who still isn't reacting. He wonders if she's crazy for not caring about what's happening. Having seen enough, Li Shimin's face contorts in rage as he shouts at the pervert. Hey! You! However, before Li Shimin can intervene, Che Xiaoxiao's eyes glow with red fury. She spins around and delivers a powerful, shining blow right into the pervert's chest. She doesn't stop there, following up her punch with a swift and powerful kick to the pervert's side. Li Shimin's jaw drops, his eyes wide with utter shock. He can only stammer out a single word. What? The force of Che Xiaoxiao's attacks sends the pervert flying backwards through the air. The pervert crashes hard onto the pavement, knocked out cold, as Che Xiaoxiao stands over him, her soul seemingly leaving her body after the outburst. The bus driver and other passengers stare in shock at the scene. The driver asks what's going on, while a bystander asks what just happened, pointing to the man lying on the ground. Che Xiaoxiao, now looking embarrassed and flustered, points down at the unconscious pervert and explains that he touched her but on purpose. Li Shimin is flabbergasted. He thinks that the size of this girl is inversely proportional to her skill. He can't help but wonder if she's a martial arts fighter. Che Xiaoxiao eyes Li Shimin suspiciously. She can't help but wonder how his ominous warning, his crow's mouth, was so accurate. It feels weirdly more precise than even her own gut feelings. Li Shimin breaks into a cold sweat, realizing the danger he's in. He knows that if this surprisingly strong girl finds out he's the one who bought her Tang Sankai, she might actually tear him apart. He decides he needs to get away from her as quickly as possible and get on with his original plan of going to the car dealership. On the bus, Li Shimin looks exhausted and anxious. He thinks he needs to get away from this girl as soon as possible, reassuring himself that it should only take a few minutes to get to the car dealership. Suddenly, a system window appears above him, showing a chilling 0%. Li Shimin panics completely, clutching his head in terror. He doesn't understand why the bus has a 0% chance of arriving in a few minutes and screams, "What's going to happen again?" Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more awesome stories.